Hey, everybody. Welcome to this 4th of July week of Over It. I am Julie Roginski here with JoJo from Jers and Michelle Kinney. Tara Setmayer spent, I don't know how long at the Jersey Shore. So she is on the road heading back to DC. But the three of us are here, and Tara's here in spirit. And we are so happy to have all of you here joining us as well. It is not just 4th of July week. It is not just the 249th anniversary of our democracy, and I use that word loosely these days. It's coming up on Friday, which I believe is the 4th, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have a lot to talk about, you guys, because this big, beautiful bullshit that passed the Senate with full concurrence of Lisa Murkowski, who last week was talking about potentially switching parties, becoming independent and caucusing with Democrats. But I don't think that's happening anymore, you guys.
No. Did you see yesterday that interview that she gave where she was basically frozen for like an eternity?
Yep.
She stared at him for, I don't know how long, 15 long seconds, and then said, I don't like the bill. Okay, then why'd you vote for it?
Well, not only did she say I don't like the bill, she said, ultimately, I had to help the people of Alaska, but there are a lot of people in a lot of states who are going to be hurt by this bill, but I had to do what I had to do for the people of Alaska. Can you imagine saying that?
And by the way, she didn't do jack for the people of Alaska because the parliamentarian did not allow the Medicaid cuts to stay in. So she saved SNAP. She saved, it's so interesting because she saved people who are in food assistance in Alaska. But what's fascinating about this is the Republicans put that back in because they know it hurts people. And they tried to put Medicaid in because they know it hurts people. So they said, Alaska, we're not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
There were 49 states, and I guess Hawaii too, because that was non-contiguous, which is hilarious. But they won't do that for the rest of their constituents. And I just keep going back to that speech that Murkowski gave where she said she was frightened and we're all frightened.
Yeah, she also got, I think one of the concessions was they stripped out the tax on green energy, so wind and solar, Hawaii and Alaska in particular, right? So she benefited there, but ultimately, again, she's admitting that they're going to hurt their own constituents in other states, and that's fine. And this they don't care, which to me should be political suicide because they are hurting their own people, which is another reason why this billionaire boner bill. I'm sorry, my daughter's here. Sorry, Julie's dad. She's the worst. But it's why it polls so badly when people actually learn what's in it, and we got to talk about that because so few people know what's in this.
Gee, I wonder why, Joe. Why don't you tell us why people don't?
Yes,
know? Because I'd love to know why people don't know.
Well, because maybe, just maybe, the Democrats should spend a little less time trying to rename the thing, unless you're going to call it the billionaire boner bill, which, by the way, I advocate strongly for. But they're not beating the drum on the stories of the human beings who are going to pay the price for this, because these are not partisan issues. It is not a partisan issue as to whether or not you want to starve kindergartners. It's not a partisan issue as to whether or not you want your grandmother or mother to be able to stay in her nursing home. It is not a partisan issue as to whether or not you want someone who served this country and sacrificed for it to be able to access healthcare, life-saving healthcare. These are not partisan issues, and the Democrats need to be telling every single one of these stories, because if Americans knew that this was going to hurt them, it's going to hurt their neighbors, it's going to hurt their family, their loved ones, their children, saddling this country with so much debt and deficit that our kids are going to be asking, what the hell were you thinking when you added all this money to what we owed? The Democrats need to be telling those stories face to phone, person to person. Put them out there every single day. And if they pass this in the House, which, by the way, is not a foregone conclusion, certainly not in its current iteration, then we hang this around their neck like a freaking albatross from now until eternity, until they are hopefully, God willing, voted out of their positions.
And you bring me to my over it, which is exactly what you just talked about, which is the complete lack of messaging from Democrats. And I'm over Chuck Schumer. I don't know if we could thank you for putting this up. This is Chuck Schumer's message. I just forced this is his big celebratory thing. I just forced Republicans to delete their ridiculous bill name. It's no longer named the One Big Beautiful Bill. Nothing about this bill is beautiful. It's a betrayal of American families, and it's undermining a little, whatever it is. I can't read it. And it's undeserving of such a stupid name. Okay, Chuck Schumer, listen to me. Semantics is not where we are right now. I don't give a rat's ass, sorry, Dad, about what they call this bill. I care about what's in it. And let me just tell you what's in it, because we have a couple of trolls here who don't understand what's in it. And
or they do, and they're just
or they do,
assholes.
but you're gonna find out. But let me give you some statistics because I have it. This current iteration of this bill would gut healthcare for 17 million Americans by cutting over $1 trillion from Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act. It's not just poor people, my friends.
Oh no,
it's all of us. It would kick seniors and the disabled out of nursing homes because 63% of them rely on Medicaid. 63%. You want to kick grandma out of the nursing home? More than a 1 in 2 chance that she's on Medicaid. 22 million seniors would be affected by these budget cuts. It would drastically cut food assistance for parents, for children, for seniors, for veterans, and for Americans with disabilities. Meanwhile, it provides an absurd amount of money to build concentration camps in this country, which is what Alligator Alcatraz is. So we are now a country. I just want people to understand what we are. We are now a country that is sending a very stark message to the world. And I want people to absorb this, that we are more interested in caging people than in keeping them alive.
Yep.
That is what is happening right now. I don't understand why that is not something that is easily understood. And by caging people, my friends, I don't just mean the quote unquote rapists and murderers and others that Donald Trump thinks are here. I'm not even talking about people who came here and are undocumented and do not deserve to be caged in a swamp in Florida where the next hurricane is going to kill them because this is something that was put up within a week and it's basically tents in 110-degree heat in a swamp. I don't even mean people like that. I want people to understand that the other day, the Department of Justice put out guidance that said that they can strip naturalized citizens of their citizenship.
Yeah.
They will become me. I'm a naturalized citizen.
For committing a crime.
Not just committing a crime. You think it's about committing a crime, but actually it's worse. It's not just committing a crime. It is if you are charged or indicted by an attorney general, by a U.S. attorney, excuse me. So Alina Habba decides that she doesn't like the cut of my jib. And she indicts me because you can indict anybody for anything.
Sandwich,
right? So she indicts me. I don't know. She looks at my taxes and she says, you failed to report $5. I didn't, but the reality is they can indict you for it. And it's up to you to fight it. Stripped of your citizenship. But then the most pernicious part of this, and this is the part that I have to pull this up because it's really awful. The other part of this guidance is that these categories that they listed, right, do not limit the civil division from pursuing any particular case or any other cases referred to the civil division that the division determines to be sufficiently important to pursue. What does that mean? Anybody for anything. For anything. Because you go to a No Kings rally and you protest Donald Trump, oh, you're a domestic terrorist, we're going to charge you.
Well, right. I mean, and the Patriot Act really kind of set us up for that. I mean, the enemy combatant part of that, I mean, really, stripped away a lot of the, I don't know about due process, but like, I mean, if you're just deemed enemy combatant, they can just take you. And that was 20 something years ago. And now it's like whatever Donald Trump decides he doesn't like about you. I mean, like Paramount today, right? I mean, this thing was 60 Minutes. I just use that as an example of like a threat. And then they hand over, $16 million to him for doing what?
No,
for not breaking any laws, not doing anything wrong.
But Michelle, it's before we get to 60 Minutes, because I think that kind of merits its own discussion. I want people to understand where this is going. It started with the quote unquote murderers and rapists who were never murderers and rapists, because most people who are being caged right now are families with children and who've lived here without committing any crimes. In fact,
50% no crimes. 50%.
They commit fewer crimes than American citizens, just so you know.
Yeah.
But then, if you remember, back in March, Trump gave up the game because he went on stupid social media platform and talked about sending Tesla protesters to CCOT, right? So you could be an American citizen, you should go to CCOT. Then the following month, in April, Bukele, the president of El Salvador, shows up, and Trump says to him on a hot mic in the Oval Office, and I quote, "The homegrowns are next." And then he added about CCOT, you got to build about 5 more places. It's not big enough. For the homegrowns. Who are the homegrowns? You guys, the ones who were born here. Then yesterday, he's sitting with Ron DeSantis, putting fingers himself at this Alligator Alley press conference, right? And he says to Ron DeSantis, we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here too.
What about 34-time felons? I mean, I guess not.
Yes.
Or people who settle out of court with the women they've sexually abused or assaulted. Yep. What about them?
So what I just want people to understand is he's not stopping with people who are undocumented. He's not stopping with naturalized citizens. He's coming for all of us.
Yep.
And what is this? And he's setting up, and this bill gives DHS an obscene amount of money, something like $1 trillion,
yeah,
to build more concentration camps, because that's what this is. All over the country. In fact, DeSantis is already talking about building another one near Jacksonville in Northeast Florida. And you have Nancy Mace, who is out of her fucking mind. Sorry, Dad. Running for governor of South Carolina, and she says, "I'm so sorry to your daughter," because I realize she's there. I should stop cursing.
Abby's heard much worse.
So look at this, dear DHS. We've got a swamp and a dream. Let's talk. South Carolina's gators are ready, and they're not big on paperwork. If I was governor, it's if I were governor, Nancy, but okay, we'd be bringing alligator Alcatraz to South Carolina. Okay, and she'll probably be governor because she's running a crazy MAGA campaign. And she's probably going to outrun whoever, she's out of her mind.
Yeah. To say the least.
Yeah. It's like the new Apprentice. It's like the winner of this Apprentice gets to build a concentration camp in their home state swamp. I mean, this is where we are. But again, remember, this is who they are. This is the brand now. I mean, Mitch McConnell said they'll get over it when he was talking about your grandmother dying because she can't be in a nursing home. They'll get over it when he was talking about a 5-year-old starving. They'll get over it when he's talking about a veteran dying because they can't get the health care they need. They'll get over it. And again, Joni Ernst too. We're all gonna die. This is who they are. This is the face of the Republican Party now. It's abject depravity, but it's the brand. And Kristi Noem is the embodiment of it. And Nancy Mace would like very much to be like Kristi Noem is Border Barbie, and Nancy Mace is like a Temu Border Barbie. Like you order Border Barbie on Shein and you get Nancy Mace. Okay, this is what we're talking about. So Kristi Noem auditioned for the spot that she has now when she bragged about shooting her own dog.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that Kristi Noem has pitched and is like sort of planning, from what I know, to make a reality show out of migrants, fighting Hunger Games style to get of citizenship, but the second place would get like a Starbucks gift card. And I'm not just making that up. That was in the article that was reported. So anyways.
Yeah. I mean, Julie, I'm sorry to I didn't mean to stomp on your over it. Like,
no.
Picking up on, because this is disgusting. This is who they are by design. Friends, we don't have to look back too far throughout history to see this playbook running towards atrocity. Like, this is what they're doing by design.
But why are we the ones talking about this? Like, why is Chuck Schumer tweeting semantics about how he changed the name of this bill? Why is he not taking a child who has autism, for instance, who will be gravely hurt by this legislation purely because that person gets funding through the state, through Medicaid, for assistance, for help? Why is he not having people whose mothers are in a nursing home with dementia who now will have to fend for themselves? When DOJ went after Social Security and insisted that people show up in person to collect their benefits, Why did they not find somebody who had dementia, who relies on Social Security, who cannot physically show up because that person has dementia and can't get there and can't think for themselves, but needs this money desperately to survive?
Yeah.
Why in the world are they not putting those people forward? It's very good and it's fine for all these senators to go on all these podcasts, including ours, and I'm grateful that they do, to talk about these issues, but they're not the face of this, right? They're not the face of this. The face of this, if my grandmother was still alive, would be my grandmother, who was in the nursing home until she was 100 years old.
Oh my gosh, how old?
She died. She was pretty old, 100, almost 102. My other grandmother lived to be 104. I've got good.
Wow.
Dang, girl.
Yeah. Wow. But the point is, she was on Medicaid. She had dementia. She couldn't walk. She was in a wheelchair. She did not speak English because she came here as a refugee at a very old age. So that's your person. Maybe not my grandmother because she didn't speak English, but that's your person. And I have to tell you guys, I'm sorry, I just interrupt. I was walking down Amsterdam Avenue in New York today. And I was walking to my garage to get something out of my car, which is a billion miles away from my house because it's really expensive to park in New York. And there was a group of children, and I don't know who they were, but one was blind, one was walking with a walker, but barely walking, like his legs were all mangled. Clearly, just a bunch of incredibly children who really need help, need assistance. And I was on the phone with my mother, and I said to her, which I always do whenever I see somebody who's, a child who's in need, I'm like, oh my God, there, but for the grace of God, like it's so heartbreaking. I can't and then I said to my mom, I said, these kids I don't know what's going to happen to these kids because of this bill. And my mom was like, who watches a lot of cable news, was like, I know, I can't believe it. She's aware of what's happening, but that's all I could think about. Like, these are real children. These are real.
Well, I just want to. Sorry, I just have to pick up on that because I don't know if you guys know this, but like I've talked about it, but I was an aide for autistic preschoolers for almost 7 years, and I'm gonna try and do this without getting emotional. I'm gonna try hard. This is really hard but incredibly rewarding work. These were in many cases kids who were nonverbal, kids who couldn't go to the bathroom by themselves, feed themselves, but they could smile, they could laugh, they could run, they could look at you, they could feel safe, and making them feel safe and helping them grow with these services. I can't tell you how many of their parents would say, thank God. And they would come to pick them up at school, drop them off at school, and you could see the look on their faces where they were like, this was such a these are critical services that not only do these children need, but their families need them too. There are so many human beings who deserve more. They deserve more of that social safety net. They deserve more dignity. They deserve more compassion. These children, they matter. All of these lives touched by this matter. And if we don't care and we're able to look away, then who are we? Then we're lost. And that is what Republicans want. They want us to look the other way. They want us to look the other way, Julie, when they see kids like you're talking about who don't have the services they need. And now their parents are strapped with being unable to take care of them, unable to work because they have to take care of them, unable to afford the services that would destroy their finances. And to your point, also, I was at a shadow hearing that Democrats held on my birthday on the 17th of June. And I will tell you that there was an autistic boy there named Landry. His mother was on the panel testifying about what would happen to her son, her beautiful little baby boy, who would lose all the services he has because she can't afford them, because Medicaid provides them. This child would be left to what? To spiral? And what does that family do? They have other children they have to take care of as well. Like, we cannot look away, and we have to find our humanity here. And Republicans want more than anything for us to lose sight of who we are. And I fundamentally, whether I'm naive, optimistic or just insane. I just don't believe that's actually who we are. We have more capacity for cruelty than I ever thought, but I don't think that we are fundamentally that cruel. I just don't.
You raise an excellent point. My mom actually said this to me today when I was literally in the same conversation when I was on the phone with her. And she, again, an immigrant, right? A refugee. She said to me, I don't understand how this country, which was always a beacon for democracy, she goes, I understand why Russia, because I said we're kind of trending in the Russia direction. She goes, no, Russia always had a strong man. Russia always had autocracy, whether it was the czars or communism or now Putin. She said, that's, don't look at Russia because that's in their culture to be that way. She said, but it's not in the American culture. And she said, I don't understand how this fell apart so quickly, how in one fell swoop, this country, which was always a beacon, not just for people coming here, but for goodness, right? As you point out, Joe, for caring for people. I mean, listen, I'm not sugarcoating the history of this country. There's been some very cruel episodes in this country, starting with slavery. But the reality is we've always kind of at the end appealed to our better angels, and how one man can just show up and within 6 months destroy the entire American experiment. Whereas I keep saying we care more about caging people than caring for them. How is that possible? How are we reallocating money to concentration camps from kids that you're talking about, Joe? From old people, and they know this bill sucks. You know why they know? Because it doesn't go into effect until 2027, until after the midterms. If they really thought it was good, they put it into effect now, but they're waiting. They're waiting until they can get reelected. And then they're assuming there's going to be a Democratic Congress potentially, and they'll blame it on the Democrats because all the shit will start to happen in 2027, presumably when Hakeem Jeffries or whoever is speaker, and they could say, yep, you see what's happening under the Democrats? That's because of them. Everything was good until the Democrats came into power.
That's what they did with the tax bill, too.
That is how cynical they are. That is how cynical they are. And the Democrats are not making them own it. That's
no. And this is, I wrote this on my Instagram. And of course, there's always a couple of people who want to argue with me. But I said that shame on the DNC, shame on Democratic leadership. I was like, you have had weeks and weeks and weeks to counter message this horrible, horrible piece of legislation that is going to kill people. And I said that the Democrats have sat on their hands and let Trump and the Republicans control the narrative and run national propaganda advertising. This is the part. And, this is where people are like, oh, okay, we're going to blame the Democrats. They're not. Okay, no, they're not the ones making it. But like, if you are allowing someone to abuse a person in your household under your, under your roof, like, I mean, how are you any better? I mean, if you're allowing these things to happen and you're not saying anything, and you're the person with power, and you're the person with the purse strings who has the ability to do something about this. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, yes, there's a lot of senators, there's members of Congress who are getting on their social media and they're trying to talk to the people who are already following them. That's the thing. It's like the people who are already following them. Yes. Okay. Yes. They're listening and they're paying attention, but I'm talking about the average. And I think we're all talking about the average person who is not paying attention to any of this. It takes money. It takes millions of dollars to put together a messaging strategy on television, on digital, on billboards, everywhere. You have to blast it to people. It's the they them ad from the 2024 cycle that they were showing 7 times during a football game and all day long. And this is the kind of thing that this requires. And instead, they're just like, well, what am I supposed? We're not in power. I guess we'll just wait till the midterms and then do what? And then play catch up.
We don't tell stories. And Joe, you said this in our chat today, and you were so like the most profound thing that I think has been said about this. I don't even know if I commented to you about it, but it really was where you talked about Laken Riley. What happened to Laken Riley was really tragic, right? She was raped and murdered by an undocumented immigrant. They told the story of Laken Riley so hard and so often and beat it into people's heads so much that that she truly changed the trajectory, unfortunately, for this. Where is that kind of storytelling? And let me just give you one example, because I just read this not long ago, and CBS News did this. I'm going to read you the opening paragraph of the story from CBS. Jason Barrett visits his 94-year-old grandmother, Ruth Ranney, at the Martinsburg Health Center in West Virginia as often as he can. Medicaid will soon be covering the cost of Ranney's care, putting her among the 77% of West Virginia nursing home residents who rely on the program. But now that funding could be cut by $930 billion over the next 10 years, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing about him, right? This is the thing about Jason Barrett. He is a Republican state senator in West Virginia, right? And he said, and I quote, "We have to get to a place where we're balancing our budget again. I don't think we can do that on the backs of nursing home residents." Really, Senator?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Amazing.
You fucked around and now you're finding out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's statistics to bear this out. There's statistics about storytelling, about how impactful and powerful storytelling can be.
Mhm.
Because what happens, we talk about this all the time. I sound like a broken record, but I cannot make this point enough. This is why, like a Joe Rogan, it exists. You make people feel seen when you
Yeah.
connect with them on this human level, and they don't want to engage with being talked at. They don't want to engage with stats and figures and numbers and names and
And
semantics.
explaining,
Right.
like it's just
right. You got to find that spot that we all have that connects with the center, with the core. And those are stories. It is emotion. It is being able to see yourself in someone else or someone else seeing themselves in you. This is what Republicans are so terrified about. This is why they are taking LGBTQ plus books out of our school libraries.
yeah, because they
Well-
understand the power of storytelling.
Exactly.
Like
They
that's
under-
literally
right.
it.
Once you are isolated and alone and you exist in that space, they can do anything they want. They can control every aspect of your life because you no longer feel empowered, because you feel alone. And what is your little voice going to do out there in this big sea of chaos? Nothing. But if we remember, right? Like if we remember who we are and if we connect to each other on this human level, then people feel empowered. Then you see them showing up to marches, which, by the way, we could talk about marches because it's great to march, but we need action. We need
Mhm.
something to accompany those marches
Yeah.
that is designed to an end. What, the civil rights marches and suffrage, these were things that had a specific goal. We need
Yeah.
to remember that too. Like the marching is amazing, and it tells me that people are looking for some place to use their voices. We need to give them direction. If you ask me right now, what every Democrat should be doing is channeling that energy into these stories and showing people that this is their opportunity to do something. It is not just marching, and not that I'm trivializing that.
No, it's
But
part of the puzzle. It's
right.
part of all of it, right? Yeah.
Show up and be like, make those, particularly these House members now, make them see you, make them confront the stories. Like these little lobbyists, I don't know if you all know who they are, but there's these kids that go to representatives and senators' offices and stuff. They go to their elected officials' offices, and these are disabled children, and they're children who rely on Medicaid, and their parents bring them around to lobby these people, and they're so brave. And like, make these elected officials look that in the face and tell the story to the American people
Well, there were
in a
some
way that
people-
they understand it.
Yeah, and there were some people who showed up at the Capitol who were people who depended on Medicaid and wheelchairs, and they had them they had them arrested and zip tied. And like, this is where I really straddle the line between, Joe, you saying that I don't think everyone's this bad, and I don't believe that everyone is this bad, but I do think that a large majority of the population has become so desensitized to suffering that they no longer care, or they cannot be bothered to care. And I think that I think it's a long time coming. I think it's been bubbling to the surface for many, many, many years. But I think in particular during the pandemic, I think it got a lot worse. Number one, with the individualistic nature in which everyone behaved. Like, I don't care. This is about me. I don't care about everybody else. Number two was most people aren't dying unless they already have a pre-existing condition, unless they're disabled, and so they qualified death based on someone's quality of human being in their eyes. Like, okay, well, they're not a full healthy person, so therefore I do not value their life. So if they catch this, too bad, they're going to die. And when 1 million people die, and you have the president of the United States telling everybody it's all under control, it'll be gone by Easter, don't wear a mask. Like, I mean,
it is what it is.
it is what it is. You have people showing up at the Michigan State Capitol with semi-automatic weapons. I mean, it's just like it became a normalization and comfort with mass death. And when you have a culture or a population of people who have become so comfortable with mass death, like really horrible things can happen. I've said this on our show and other places, is that, you know, in the couple decades after the 1918 pandemic came Nazi Germany. And there is data, there have been studies in Germany where the Nazi party got the most amount of votes were the places that had the most amount of death. And so, you know, and not to mention, this again was another pandemic that disabled people in the same way that long COVID and these things are doing to people now was happening then. And then there was a lot of resentment on the disabled community and people who could not fend for themselves anymore. People who needed care, who needed, you know, different resources from the government or from, you know, their society or town or whatever it was. And, you know, this is where I'm just like, I do think a lot of people are terrible. And I, unfortunately, I mean, I'm just very pessimistic about a lot of people, and until it affects them. And this is like when you hear Meghan McCain, like, oh, until it finally affects her personally. And then she's like, well, this is terrible. This is,
well, I mean,
it's awful. But I'm saying, but like, she's like the prime example of
or the
Republicans.
Or this guy in West Virginia. Oh, we can't balance the budget. First of all, the budget's not balanced, my friends. They're adding.
Oh God, no, please.
I mean, forget it. but more relevantly, you know, we can't do that on the backs of my grandma, but other people's grandmas are okay, right? Like, because it affects your grandma.
Was it Witkoff? Who was it that said that about them cutting Social Security and how his mother would be? Was it Witkoff?
No, it was
another one of
Cantor Fitzgerald guy. It was is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
It
wasn't Witkoff. It was the chairman of Commerce, the Department of Commerce guy.
Yeah, I can never remember. Is that
I get all the toadies mixed up.
The slimy guy from Cantor Fitzgerald.
Down there supping
Lutnick.
That's it. His mother would be fine if her Social Security check.
Yeah, dude, you got $4 billion. You have $4 billion. And you know, this is where I got to give it again to Michael Steele, who I think is a really, you know, is a good man, a good person, who used to lead the Republican Party. He went on TV that day or the next day and said, you know, who's not going to be fine is my parents.
Yeah.
You know, because he's well off, but he's not so well off that he can just, you know,
you guys, do you know what it costs to be in a nursing home? Nobody can afford it.
Nobody.
I mean, unless you're Lutnick, who made a shitload of money on Cantor Fitzgerald.
Right.
Nobody can afford it. It is like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, not like, by the way, that is hysterical. I'm stealing that from all of you. But like
what? Oh, the Nutlick?
Nutlick. That's really funny. But this is why I think look, the crypt keeper, friggin' evil turtle that is Mitch McConnell. Like, he's on his way out, but he said they'll get over it. And this is why I think every Democrat, not only the stories, in addition to the stories, they should be running ad after ad after ad with the story of this disabled person, this veteran, this grandmother, this mother, this, by the way, not this just separate, but this woman who she became brain dead and they used her body as an incubator for her fetus, right? Like,
and nobody's
talking about that. Like, it's the craziest thing.
It's like the in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it. It was in the news for like a day. I mean, yes, it was mentioned after the fact, but that should have been, there is a political assassination happening with the leaders of government in Minnesota. And then you have Joe Biden showing up to pay his respects, getting down on his knee.
Yeah.
I mean, and walking over to the you know, and these two people are lying in state with the dog. And he's over, you know, greeting the other dogs who are part of the same program, talking to people, holding people. And this is, again, Joe Biden and his compassion. However you feel about his politics, Joe Biden is a good man. And Donald Trump said on the plane to reporters, he had not called Tim Walz, who's the governor of Minnesota, because he couldn't be bothered and it would be a waste of time. And again, like Donald Trump, it's like
worse. He went negative on Tim Walz, and they're blaming Tim Walz for this because Tim Walz appointed this killer reappointed this killer to some commission. So now it's Tim Walz's fault. Like,
right.
But again, they're so good at this. They're
I know.
so good at storytelling. And there's zero pushback. And as much as everybody sits here and says, oh, but they've got Fox News, they've got Joe Rogan, and they've got this, and they've got that.
It's cumulative.
The reality is we don't have anybody to do this. We do this all the time, but we need our leaders, and this is back to my overrate. We need the reason Chuck Schumer did not stand up and excoriate the living daylights out of Mitch McConnell is because they've worked together for the last 10,000 years. And they have together at the Senate dining room, and I'm telling you, I work in the Senate, so I know how chummy they all are. And they see each other at the Senate gym, and God knows what, like.
I want to see Mitch McConnell at the Senate gym.
Well, yeah. The Senate gym too. But the reality is, we all hang out together, and therefore we can't go negative on Mitch. Mitch out of let's leave Mitch out of it. Why? When Mitch McConnell is saying the worst stuff in the world, if the roles were reversed, do you think Donald Trump wouldn't go nuts?
Oh yeah.
Imagine if Chuck Schumer said about Lake and Riley, you know what? They'll get over it.
They'll get over it.
Well, imagine the ads. This would become the biggest talking point for Republicans forever.
Because somewhere, like somebody decided that Democrats are punching down and Republicans punch up. And so there is like different rules applied to each side in that way, and that Republicans can punch up because they're the underdogs. I don't understand who decided this or where this came from, but like Democrats are the ones who are supposed to do the right thing, and they're supposed to say the right thing, and they're supposed to be nice and not supposed to do these things. And I'm like, yeah. And look where it's gotten. Not that we got to like be assholes, but like terrible people who do bad things to people who don't deserve it. But like, we got to be fighting something. Like we're showing up to a gunfight with like a cheese stick, and it's not doing anything.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah, and I will say this, and we've talked about this before, and this is a little bit of inside baseball, but I think one of the problems with my party right now, is that there is this power struggle between the establishment and, the old guard that does not want to cede their power. I mean, this is a real problem. But I don't mean just their power electorally or their power politically. I mean their power in terms of media, their power in terms of messaging. We are looking at a party that has turned itself inside out into a cult of personality that is unrivaled probably in the history of time in the span of the last couple of decades, but really precipitously in about the last decade. And they have done that for their own survival, because they are not a bunch of Veruca Salts and a bunch of cautionary tales who need everything to be exactly the way they want it, but also because they all walk in conjunction with each other. They march lockstep because they understand that in order to actually do things, to get to make an impact, you have to do that. And my side is like, oh no, but we have these 5 people who've had power since the dinosaurs roamed the earth, and they know best. Friends, they don't know best. They knew best before I was a zygote. Arguably even maybe further back than that. But there is this battle in our party right now where they do not want to cede that control. And on a messaging front, that is political suicide. That's how you get wiped out in every single column in a single election. And that's why the Democrats right now are polling so much worse than they have in the last even 7
which is
years.
outrageous.
Well, for 2 reasons. For 2 reasons. For 2 reasons. I'll tell you what. Trump is getting shit done. You may not like it, but he's getting shit done.
Right.
And the reality is
shit.
But he's getting shit done.
No, I know.
The reality is Democrats always had, we can't do this because of the Senate rules. We can't do this because the courts have stopped us. He doesn't care. He is bulldozing his way, and he's getting shit done. And frankly, that is appealing to a lot of people because somebody looks like they're actually doing stuff. That's 1. 2, you have, and New York showed the future of what is going to happen to the Democratic Party. You had a sclerotic establishment figure named Andrew Cuomo running against a 33-year-old named Zohran Mamdani. And I will tell you this about Mamdani. Don't agree with his politics all the time. Don't agree with a lot of what he stands for. That guy showed us the way to communicate. He
ran a great campaign.
He ran a great campaign. he appealed exactly to the people Democrats always talk about wanting to turn out: men and young people.
Yeah, 18 to 24. 18 to 24 was the largest demo of voter turnout.
When has that ever happened? When has that ever happened?
Never. And this was after the Columbia kids went home and the NYU kids went home.
Yep.
And Michelle, just real quick to just piggyback before you go on, Julie, like that to me, that's the demo that hasn't leaned so far into this disconnection from our humanity. They're the ones, I think, that you can still reach that haven't become so numb to pain and suffering. I think because they're idealistic, and when we're young, we view the world through that lens. I think they're yet to be completely jaded to the point where they don't care. I think that they are the most susceptible to these stories moving them and moving the needle and getting them out. Sorry, Julie, go ahead.
Well, so basically all I'm saying is there are people out there that can show the sclerotic party how to communicate. They do.
Yeah.
And, you know, part of the reason that Schumer is not endorsing Mamdani and Jeffries is not endorsing Mamdani, and by the way, I'm not sure I'm going to vote for this guy. Probably not if he doesn't get rid of the Intifada nonsense. But I will say this. Part of the reason they're not endorsing him and they're using the globalized Intifada thing, I think, as an excuse, is because they don't want somebody like that gaining power. Because if he gains power, there's going to be a billion guys like him who are going to be coming for them next. And they want that. And the reality is that there is going to be a Zoran Mamdani who's going to come for Chuck Schumer and potentially
could be AOC.
Could be AOC.
Although I don't know that she'll give up her seat to do it, but you know what I mean?
I think she's going to just run for president. But the reality is somebody like that is going to come for them. And they're going to win because they know how to communicate. It's not about policy. It is not about policy. I guarantee you that these 18 to 24-year-olds don't even understand what Zoran Mamdani stands for. It's not they don't understand. They didn't occupy themselves with that. I think what they occupied themselves with is the fact that he was inspiring. He didn't talk at them, as Joe says. He talked with them.
Well,
he was one of them. He was
I think also
this is what Trump does. This is the magic sauce for Trump. He's not about policy.
Yep.
Well, there's a couple things here too. And I again, I just want to be clear that I'm not endorsing Mamdani because I have a lot of issues with him as well. But his mom is a very successful filmmaker. So he had the ability to be able to make very high quality, very well produced content that was well written and well performed, because that's the other thing people have to remember about him too, is that he is a natural performer. He is a natural entertainer. So he's able to present all of this information in a way that's very palatable. But also, he was in the streets talking to people. I mean, they're the Friday night before the primary. And again, I said this on the show, whenever that was, a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of Columbia students who live in my building, and some of them stay over the summer and stuff like that. And I was talking to a couple of them in my lobby on my way to vote that Tuesday morning, and they were talking about Zoran like he was a Beatle. Like it was like, oh my God, I saw him on Friday night. He walked and like everybody was out drinking, and he came like talked to us. We got a picture with him, and like there is like the celebrity part of this too that Donald Trump also, obviously has tapped into, as we all know. But the celebrity aspect of this too, like you have to be a president or a mayor or whomever on TV, and you have to do it online now. Like Jack Kennedy was the first TV president. Like now we have the online presidents, and like those are the leaders that are going to be most successful, the ones that can bridge the gap and communicate on these.
Look, Barack Obama, to this end, I mean, he wasn't a digital president in the way that the world we live in now, but he did hit that spot that we're talking about, the one that Mamdani does, the same the one that Donald Trump does, right? For Trump, it's grievance.
God help us. Yeah.
For Trump, it's making the worst part of us feel seen and legitimate and validated, and a lot of people need that blame structure because their lives are inferior in some way. They have a small house or small car or a small dick or whatever it is. Sorry, Julie's dad, but they want to be able to blame someone that feels really good, and we've seen that playbook throughout the course of time. It's a big motivator, right?
Yeah.
But what Obama did was he hit the other side of that, right? So like imagine like the devil and the angel on your shoulders. Obama hit that angel, hit that inspiring, hopeful, connected message, again, making people feel seen, making them feel like they could contribute to this greater thing, this greater purpose, this hopey changey stuff, right? That they were not just going to be passerbys or observers of this little experiment.
It was a new dawn. It was a new era. You know what I mean? It's like I stood on the mall in freezing weather with 5 layers of jackets on and cried my eyes out watching him be sworn in. I was there.
It wasn't you know, policy. It wasn't really about policy for many of those voters either. And
it was hope and change.
And I think that's the policy.
And it was simple.
Right.
And it was simple.
Right. And ironically, on the policy front of this, when you put the policies of Democrats in front of the American people, by and large, put them on a ballot measure, for instance, in red state after red state, in 16 Ohio counties that voted for Donald Trump, and then voted on what was it, Proposition 8? Was that what it was? Not Prop 8. What was the abortion one? Either way, the ballot measures in state after state after state, when you take the candidate away from the policy and you just put the policy in front of the American people, they vote for it because they are in favor of democracy. And this tells you if you can combine the policies that are popular with a messenger that connects the way very few people do. And I would argue that there are some Democrats like Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock and Wes Moore. I think they do that. They connect.
Where are they? Why aren't they front and center? Why is
Ossoff just had a baby?
Fine. Before he had a baby.
Wait, who did? Who just had a baby?
Ossoff just had a baby.
Oh, he did. Oh,
I assume Ossoff's wife had the baby, but the point is, like, he could be out there.
Yes, I agree.
I will say he was one of the first ones to come out, like after the election. He was one of the first ones to come out and be like, I'm running, understanding that 2026 is not so far away that the ground game had to start now. But I understand.
He's got a tough race ahead of him, although, I think that hopefully he'll be okay. But he does have a tough race ahead of him. But you're right, Julie. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about, I do anyway, looking at Gavin Newsom, good, bad, or otherwise. Gavin Newsom understands one thing. I will forever give him credit for this. He understands how to use the machine. He understands that this is that kind of, it's an attention war. That's what it is. And he understands it. He doesn't use it as well as I think he could. Hi, call me. I have lots of thoughts. But he does use it better than most. And if a Wes Moore or a Jon Ossoff or even Shapiro is better than most, but if they could go out there and do the same, I honestly think that we might have a real shot here at getting the kind of groundswell and grassroots movement that people are hungry for. You take all those No Kings protesters and you give them a place to call home and actions that they can take and a candidate that they can geek out on like he's a celebrity or she's a celebrity. And I wish that we had more women in the space. I love Mallory McMorrow. I really do. I Gretchen Whitmer, for me, I've soured on a little bit. But I have talked about that ad nauseum.
Yeah.
I wish there were more voices. Look, and I'll give AOC credit too. I was never an AOC stan, but she has adapted. She has adapted and very smartly. I mean, she understood that helping Biden was a wise move. She understood that helping Kamala was a wise move. She understands that going out there with Bernie right now is a wise move. She's being very smart and very calculated, and I have to give her props for that. Even if I don't align with her on everything, I align with her on enough. That's the last part I'll just say. I'm so fucking sick of the Veruca Salt thing. These people are not going to have your babies. You're not going to have sex with them. You're not going to wake up next to them in bed. They don't have to be perfect. They're not your soulmate. They just have to be better than them. They have to be promising you something that is better than what is being stripped from you right now. And if we could all just get on the same bus on that a little bit better, I feel like we would have more of a shot.
Well, and you raise a great point, because for those of us who live in New York, for instance, Kathy Hochul, I think, has been I'm going to give her a compliment by saying she's a middling governor. I think she's actually not even that. But she's running most likely against one of the worst people out there who's completely transformed herself. Your friend, does she represent your parents?
She used to. When they redistricted it, like the line got moved over a little bit, but Elise Stefanik was their representative for many years, and my friend Tedra Cobb ran against her 2 times. She is a horrendous, vile, soulless, craven human being. And I could go on all day about how awful she is.
And that's the point, right? Like, I don't agree with Kathy Hochul on a lot. There's a lot that she's done that I'm like,
meh, yeah.
Like, you're personally screwing me. But if the alternative is to have MAGA Stefanik in Albany, it's not a hard call, right? It's not a hard call. It's just not. And the problem here is we're no longer at the point where we have to decide between, as Joe said, am I marrying this person or am I not marrying this person? It just has to be better than the alternative.
Yeah.
The alternative is Trump.
Yeah.
And we need Trumps everywhere.
And all that he stands for.
And all that he stands for. And if you live in South Carolina, which I know is a very Republican state, but if Nancy Mace is your gubernatorial nominee, do you really want your money going to build concentration camps in South Carolina?
Again, this is where I'm like, people don't care. And like, it's like, I don't mean to dismiss that the idea that most people are not terrible, but it's like, I've spent the last few months like watching documentary after documentary, and I keep saying I'm going to put together a list of documentaries. I swear to God I will. But one about Germany and the Holocaust and how many people knew what was going on and they said and did nothing. And it's like, I feel like I know that the Holocaust was the Holocaust, and like, only Hitler could be Hitler and all these things. Okay. Right. But history repeating itself, maybe not, but rhymes, right? That's what JoJo says often. And I don't know how anyone can open up a newspaper and a history book and not see the similarities of what is happening, and the brain deadness of all of us. I'm not us here, but collectively us not caring.
But do you know what in this history, and this is statistics have shown this, do you know what made people appreciate what happened in the Holocaust long after it was over? When Diary of Anne Frank came out. When
Elie
Wiesel,
they're trying to take out of
when Elie Wiesel published Night, which I don't know if anybody's ever read, but it's the only book I've ever read where I started crying on page one, because you knew what was coming. He does it chronologically, and you know what's coming. And the reality is that it's storytelling. I hate to say this, but people could put the face of a child who was murdered in a concentration camp in Anne Frank. The larger issue of 6 million Jews being murdered, which is an absurdly large number that you can't wrap your head around. Yeah. And so therefore you're like, I can't relate to this. It's just a huge number. When we talk about billions cut from Medicaid, that is a huge number. And people are like, I don't understand. And it's not they don't understand, but it's just numbers. It's just figures. But you have to put faces to these figures. That's people truly understood the horrors of the Holocaust long after it was over. It wasn't in 1945 when those pictures of American troops liberating Dachau, and you had people looking like they were ghosts. It was these stories came out, and children read the Diary of Anne Frank at the age that my son is or your daughter is, Joe. And it's when
I think that's when I read it. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I read Night when I was in 6th grade, and I was like, what?
It's traumatic. Yeah. When people read Night and they saw what happened to Elie Wiesel and to his family and to his father, and they suddenly could relate to a specific family. And this is what is not happening here. And I don't want to use the Holocaust as an example.
I
don't want to use Laken Riley as an example, because what happened to her was tragic, but it is storytelling.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And let's point to something that take or leave David Hogg, right? Like, let's just point to something in recent history, in recent memory, that has been a utilization of this to an end that has actually achieved one of its goals with the March for Our Lives group, right? So what happened in the wake of Parkland was David Hogg and others went out there and became the faces of these stories, right?
Yes.
How in Sandy Hook and in Uvalde and in shooting after shooting after shooting in this country in the last, ever since the assault weapons ban expire,
9.
etc. Right. So
Yeah.
we've seen nothing done, right? Which to me, the original sin is Sandy Hook. Once, Michelle, you pointed this out in our chat. Once they did not care about 6-year-olds.
Yep.
Yeah, it was all over after that.
It was all
yeah.
over. But Parkland sort of it's a funny wrinkle there, because what those young people did, and that sounds like an old person thing to say, what those young people did, those
Well, compared to us.
right, but they went out there and they became the face of something every single human being could relate to. I was in high school. I was sitting in my English class and my classmate was murdered in front of me. I had to run for my life. The door closed behind me and Jamie Gutenberg was gone.
Mhm.
She narrowly escaped. She narrowly didn't escape by seconds. The kid in front of her got through the door and she didn't. And those young people put that in our faces. They got out there, they lined the mall with the sneakers of people who had been killed in mass shootings. And what happened? They got Florida to change their gun legislation. They got them to enact Florida, fucking Florida. Sorry, Julie's dad, Ron goddamn DeSantis. They got them to put into place. By the way, they have reversed much, and now in Florida, you can basically carry a gun if you can buy a fucking toothbrush. But
Yeah,
pretty much in the same place.
Yeah.
But the March for Our Lives movement shows us that it is very much possible to both tell the story and get in people's faces and make them see you in a way that makes them see themselves and people that could be that they love, that could be next. And I think that, again, like, it's not impossible for us to find that, but we need the Democrats. Again, take or leave David Hogg. He doesn't have to be your favorite person on the planet.
Yeah.
But let's learn some lessons that have been
Listen,
successful.
Yeah.
and you know what? I will say this. Most of those kids from Parkland were the theater kids. They were the theater kids. I'm serious.
Yeah.
They all knew each other and they were very good friends because they all did theater together. And like, those were my people in high school, and those were my people when I went to school for it, and those are my people still.
Yeah.
And like, you know, they're the people who approach everything with a lived experience and a storytelling angle, because I mean, and here's the thing that just makes me crazy, is because the left, right, we're supposed to be the ones who have Hollywood and theater and this and that. I'm like, why aren't we using it? Why aren't we using it?
Because they're
Like,
scared.
where is everybody? I know they're scared. I mean, like,
Yeah.
cowards.
Maxwell
Cowards.
Frost, by the way, somebody put Maxwell Frost in the chat, Jessica Morgan. I got to see him speak in person with Chris Murphy, who I forgot to call out as being a real shining star right now as well. But Maxwell Frost, this is why Maxwell Frost ran for Congress.
I like
And
him a
Maxwell
lot.
Frost
I like
was
him a lot.
homeless when
Yeah.
he got into Congress because he wanted to serve. He wanted to actually make changes, and he is an incredible speaker. And you're right, Michelle. Like, he understands, you know, performance. This is sadly, this is a huge part of. It's always been a part of politics, a big part of politics. I mean, my
Oh,
God,
you guys, let me tell you how much a part of politics it is. Fox News, which you know, I don't know who wags the dog here, whether it's Trump who wags Fox or Fox wags Trump, but whatever. Roger Ailes, who was the former chairman of Fox News, who I have a long and complicated history with, but I will give him this compliment, came out of the theater world. He was a Broadway producer for a while. And the number one show, not just on Fox, but on all of cable television, including TNT, including everything else, is The Five, a show I used to be on. And this is what Roger Ailes said to me about The Five. I could put 5 people on the street on that show. It doesn't matter who they are, because here's how I cast it. You have the girl next door. You have the leading man. You have Falstaff. You have the babe. And you have the Joker. And then who am I missing? And then you have Falstaff was the Democrat, but you have the Democrat could be, at that point it was Falstaff, but you have basically the heel, which is the Democratic seat. And it is true that show, except for the girl next door and the clown, which is Greg Gutfeld and Dana Perino, they've been since the beginning, but everybody else is rotated. And he said to everybody on that show repeatedly, I could replace any one of you with anybody on the street if they fill that role.
He wasn't wrong.
All theater. It is all theater.
Yeah.
It is all performative. And we sit here, and I blame MSNBC for this too, because Rachel Maddow, who's number one on MSNBC, sits there and for 25 minutes reads a prompter giving you a Harvard dissertation.
She's brilliant, but like, oh my God.
What happened in 1947 and what happened in 1964, and by minute 17, she ties it to what's happening today, and then she has 10 minutes of what's happening today. And by that point, you're like, Jesus, if I wanted to read, I wanted to read the New York Times Magazine, I just read the New York Times
That
Magazine.
A block, man, that
A block is a killer. And that's what, like, are you kidding me? And then the only people she has in her show are usually, I mean, sort of these A-list people. Bring on somebody who is suffering from these issues, because the congressman or the senator you're bringing on is going to be just fine. They have government health care that will take care of them forever. I used to be on that healthcare plan. It is the best thing on earth. Bring on somebody who doesn't have to worry about their pension.
I agree. I think Nicole's one of the best people on the network. Yeah, I think because she talks like a real person.
Because she's an operative.
Yeah.
Because she still is an operative.
Yeah.
And the reality is that by the time she's done with her A block, Fox has had 17 people on that are scared the bejesus out of you about what Democrats are. And meanwhile, we're still talking about 1947 and what happened. I mean, come on.
Which is interesting, but not pressing. Yeah. It's not the urgent matter of the day. And I mean, Joe, I don't know what your over it was today, but I just want to make sure that did you say it? You didn't say it yet.
It ties in. There's been a thread throughout this whole chat today that it really kind of ties into and is parallel with. It really is. It's just that I'm over the abject cruelty. I'm over the depravity. I'm over the unabashed lack of humanity and decency in the Republican Party. I mean, there was a photograph yesterday, a still photograph yesterday of Trump in his stupid fucking MAGA hat and putting cup fucker DeSantis and puppy shooter Noam standing in front of those cages and laughing, uproariously laughing. And Donald Trump doesn't really laugh, but they're all basically sociopaths of some shade.
Yeah.
And that picture, it really hit me. It like hit me hard. I wrote about it on my Substack because it's one of those pictures where you're like, if you were flipping through a history book and you're looking back at this time and you see that, and you know that they're standing in front of cages in the middle of a swamp that they have, there it is. They're standing in front of cages with bunk beds. We've seen Kristi Noem stand in front of cages like that with men behind her that she had stripped down and their heads were shaved so that they could show off their tattoos to somehow brag about the cruelty. And like, that's the part, that picture, the callousness and the inhumanity and the indecency of that photograph, knowing that human beings, many of whom came here seeking refuge, seeking a better life. My father was an immigrant to this country. He came here seeking that shining city on a hill. He came here seeking the promise that, no, I do not believe that this country has provided in the ways that it can, that promise to enough people. But I don't want to abandon the belief that it can and that we should stop working towards that end. But that photograph, knowing what's going to transpire behind them, that to me embodies everything that MAGA and the Republican Party have become and what they want us to become used to and numb to. And when you couple that with what was happening simultaneously in Washington, D.C., where Elizabeth Warren basically looked to me as if she'd been crying, described that after they passed, the Senate passed their version of this atrocity bill, they were cheering and clapping and high-fiving. And what they were high-fiving and cheering and clapping for was death, was suffering, was hungry children and deceased grandparents, and some number of Americans that are expendable so that another billionaire can get another bidet on his fucking boat. Okay? And I'm over them expecting us to be used to that and numb to that. Because I'm not, and for my kids' sake, I'm not going to be. That's it. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Don't be sorry, because it's true.
It is true.
And we're leaving our children something it's going to be worse for our kids than it was for us. Every generation, it's been better for them than for their parents, except this one. It is going to be worse. And, you know, I had a cousin who I was very, very close to. She was older. She was almost like a second mother to me, and helped raise me. She died in April of 2015. And I have thought repeatedly, and I've said to her husband, her son, her husband's long dead, her son, I am glad that she did not live to see this. What does that tell you about the world that we live in right now, where people who I love, I'm glad, are not alive to see this? The same way that I always think about people who died in 1932, and I'm glad they didn't see the rise of Hitler, who are German, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, you have every reason to cry, Joe, because the reality is what we are doing is subjecting people to abject cruelty. For what? For what?
Well, that's what I always I keep asking. And as much as, like, I mean, we all have been shouting from the rooftops for years, knowing that this was coming. Like, I still am like, why are they like, why? Like, what, like, other than just, oh, power, money, whatever, like, why? That's the thing. I mean, from the public health aspect of this, of you know, taking away all the vaccines and like cancer research and things like that. I mean, taking away, I mean, how many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people now have died because USAID has been dismantled around the world. I mean, it just, and at the end of the day, like, I legitimately think that the Republican Party, or at least this Trump MAGA regime, their agenda is death. They want people to die, and they especially want people to die because if you're poor and you can't afford, care or food or anything, it's like, well, you're just too stupid to be rich, or you're too stupid that you're not rich. Like, I mean, that's kind of how I think that they look at the world. Like, you're not smart enough to be rich, and so therefore you deserve to die, and you deserve to die. And oh, you don't have white skin, you deserve to die. And like, legitimately, I think that the worldview is like, let's leave the country to people who look like us. Like, that's what I think that they're thinking.
Well, and it's not just the country, it's the abject cruelty. I don't know if people know this because of everything else going on. Today or yesterday, I forgot when it was, they just pulled military aid from Ukraine. They stopped sending them Patriot missiles. So they've sold Ukraine.
Why not?
They've sold Ukraine out to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have a whole separate show on that, and I will with Olga Lautman tomorrow. But the point is, the abject cruelty is not limited just to this country. It is imposing it on.
And we have rich ass South Africans like funding this, tech oligarchy and their worldview. I mean, that's the thing. It's just like, there's so many layers to this that I have a hard time keeping track of all of it, but it's just, there's so much to your point, Joe. It's the abject cruelty, and it trickles. This is the trickle down.
And you raised Gaza as a great example, Joe. What does he do with Gaza? What does he do with Gaza? He puts out a meme. He retweets it about Mar-a-Lago, Gaza, about putting a Trump resort in Gaza. I mean,
beachfront property. These poor people.
I don't care where you are in this whole Palestinian-Israeli conflict. I don't care what you believe or don't believe. There are facts on the ground that tens of thousands of children have died. You don't mock them by putting out a meme like that. You don't. You don't mock the hostages who are there by putting out a meme like that. Again, I don't care what you're doing. Bibi Netanyahu would not put out a meme like that. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
And
this is the P.T. Barnum of him.
He is a damaged man, but he's a great marketer. And as you said, he's P.T. Barnum, and he's a Pied Piper, and all of these people are following him off the cliff. And the rest of us who didn't support him are being dragged off that cliff along with them.
Yeah, he's Harold Hill from The Music Man. He just, it's like just snake oil bullshit artist, and like, it just doesn't care. And this is, again, at the end of the day too, like, I watch all these people, bend the knee and do what he wants because they think it's gonna, stay in his good graces. Like, how did that work out for the oligarchs and Vladimir Putin? How did that work out for the people in Hitler's
German
circle
oligarch.
and
Yeah.
Stalin? And like they do, like, there is no amount of sycophancy or money or power, anything that you can give this man that will ever be enough.
My friends,
Never.
he will come. All the MAGA people in this chat, I want to be very, very clear about something. There is nothing new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
He will eventually come for you.
Yeah.
He'll come for us first. I'm not suggesting that he's not going to come for us first. And you could talk about how we're crying liberal tears and whatever happens to us, we deserve it. And you're going to be very smug about it. But one day you're going to get that knock on the door. You are going to get that knock on the door. I say this as the great granddaughter of a Bolshevik who helped the communists come to power. One day he got a knock on the door and he was shot in the head.
Yep.
Orders.
And
there is nothing new under the sun. Nothing.
And I just want to, Emily, if you don't mind, I didn't mean to pop this in the thing, but I'm just going to put this up here. They have merch for the Alcatraz, this concentration camp they're building in Florida. They have made merch. This is Benny Johnson. He is a very popular influencer and podcaster in MAGA world. If you don't know who he is, this is again where they fund and uplift all of their people on their side and their messengers. And they are not, and our side's just not willing to do that. And I think that is insane. When he was this guy, Benny Johnson, he was down there and he was wearing alligator Alcatraz merch. The prison has merch.
Because the state of Florida, it's not the prison. The state of Florida has put out merch. Coolers and hats and shirts with alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah.
This is a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should say alligator Auschwitz is what it should say.
Can you imagine making merch for that? Can you imagine? Like, can you imagine?
They would.
No, the funny thing about the Nazis, not to have these comparisons, is they purposely put their death camps. This is not a death camp. I don't want to exaggerate. Although, to be honest, we're in the midst of hurricanes. We're about to have hurricane season, and these tents are not going to protect anybody. And the reality is, when the hurricane comes, these people will not be able to run because there are alligators and snakes surrounding them. So, congratulations. So, the point is, but at least they had the decency. The Russians have the decency of putting their gulags far away so nobody can see them, in Siberia, in places that are just not that accessible. So people in Moscow and St. Petersburg can't see them. These idiots are putting them on Native American land, on Tamanami, or however you pronounce the trail. I've been on it a million times. It connects the west coast and the east coast of Florida.
Protected land too, which is just
land
crazy.
In southern Florida. So anybody can see it. They're touring it. They're proud of it. I mean,
I can only hope that their pride and their hubris about this will be their downfall. That's my only.
I hope it's that, and their idiocy, because let's be honest, like they're stupid. Like, they might not be. Even the smart ones are dumb. I mean, that's the thing, and lazy.
Yeah. But you know what they're going to do, you guys, and this is a whole. We have to go because I know we're way over. But this is a whole separate show. Also, I predict that there's going to be some sort of legislation they're going to pass that is going to demand either birth certificates to vote or passports to vote.
Well, that's the SAVE Act, right? I mean,
pretty much.
Or they're going to pass a SAVE Act, which would screw. I mean, Joe, you'd be in trouble because I think your last name, your married name, right?
Yeah. I have a different legal last name.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just went to get my real ID, and I was like, you need it. By the way, Jersey, way to go, worst state in the country on compliance with that. But yeah, as a married and now formerly married woman who changed her name, I had to bring my marriage certificate, which is hysterical to me because I'm not married anymore.
Right.
But I had to provide that as evidence of my name change because my birth certificate and my name now do not match up, which is, again, this is, a systemic war on women,
Well, I could go on all day about this, but it's a personal choice. But if I could, I didn't really want to change my name that much, and I ended up doing it anyways. And I hyphen my last name, and I regret it. I really do. And if I was a woman getting married right now, don't do it.
Don't change it.
I didn't do it. But the point is, I couldn't. I legitimately, somebody called me Mrs. by my husband's last name, and I was like, Who are they?
Hell no. I'd
I
be
was
like, what?
literally, I didn't react. I was like, who are they talking about? But the point is, I don't have a birth certificate. My birth certificate is in some Soviet file somewhere in a country that I can't go to. So what am I going to do if they ask for a birth certificate? Like
Yeah.
this is the kind of stuff that they're going to do to make it harder
Yeah.
for people to vote, whether it's
Just
women, whether it is not native, not native born.
Joe, sorry, just really quick. Joe has to go. So
Bye,
Sorry,
Joe.
sorry.
Just
I'm
want
so
her to-
sorry, guys. This
No,
is a
don't be
great show.
sorry. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Love
you.
See you
Bye.
next time.
Yep.
Okay, see you
Bye.
Saturday.
Bye. But yeah, I mean, that's the reality. The reality is that it's going to make it I predict that it's going to be very hard for people to vote who are not their people.
Well, and they also didn't they just propose a law that, or a new bill that's going to redo the census because they think, and they're not going to count undocumented people. So they think that, Texas will get more and Florida will get more or whatever. And then blue states will lose some. And they think they're going to pick up a few seats and then be able to hold on to the House. I mean, they're doing everything. And that's the other thing that just keeps, the red flags are just kind of waving in the wind. I'm like, they're acting so brazenly that it seems as though they don't have any fear that they're going to lose. And that is what scares me a lot.
Yeah, and they were acting very brazenly and convinced they were going to win the last election, which raises a lot of questions for me also.
Same. And I, at first I was like, I feel crazy. I feel crazy saying this, but I'm like, I don't know that I am crazy. I don't know that any of us are crazy because if you look and see, well, whatever, that's a whole nother conversation too, but it's people with things and capabilities and all kind of you just have to wonder. And then, so I will be taking a train to Rockland County at some time in September, and I'm going to sit in that hearing and I'm going to hear everything they have to say because I'm very interested.
All right. So yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
No, I was just going to say I always feel like I have to pick this like very profound over it every week. And then I feel bad if I don't. And then it's like, well, I can't ever just say like, I don't like microwave popcorn or something like that. But I wanted to pick something just in the middle because I just think that this is so insane. And I know I've been harping on this man named Jake Tapper for quite some time, and I will not stop. But Emily, I was wondering if we could show the clip that I sent for my Over It. I don't know if we have it. Maybe we do.
No, do we have it?
Maybe we don't. Let me.
Dana Marie McNichol, Fox News Channel. Mr. President, is there an expected time frame that detainees will spend here, days, weeks, months? And does that have anything to do with the immigration judges you just spoke about being trained and staffed here?
When you say, what was the first part of your question?
Is there a specific time frame you expect the detainees to spend here? Days, weeks, months?
In Florida?
Yes, here at Alligator Alcatraz.
I'm going to spend a lot. Look, this is my home state. I love it. I love your government. I love all the people around. These are all friends of mine. They know them very well. I mean, I'm not surprised that they do so well. They're great people. Ron has been a friend of mine for a long time. I feel very comfortable in the state. I'll spend a lot of time here. I want to, for 4 years, I've got to be in Washington, and I'm okay with it because I love the White House. I even fix up the little Oval Office. I make it, it's like a diamond. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It wasn't maintained properly, I will tell you that. But even when it wasn't, it was still the Oval Office, so it meant a lot. But I'll spend as much time as I can here. You know, my vacation is generally here because it's convenient. I live in Palm Beach. It's my home. And I have a very nice little place, nice little cottage to stay at, right? But we have a lot of fun, and I'm a big contributor to Florida, pay a lot of tax. And a lot of people move from New York, and I don't know what New York is going to do. A lot of people moved to Florida from New York, and it was for a lot of reasons, but one of them was taxes. The taxes are so high in New York, they're leaving. I don't know what New York's going to do about that, because some of the biggest wealthiest people and some of the people that pay the most taxes of any people anywhere in the world, for that matter, they're moving to Florida and other places. So we're going to have to help some of these states out, I think. But thank you very much. I'll be here as much as I can. Very nice question.
What was that? But again, this is just another example of a crazy person who is losing his mind and his hearing and his faculties every single day.
Yep.
And it has not gotten better in the last 10 years. It has only gotten worse, which, again, I urge anyone to go back and watch anything that Donald Trump did 10 years ago. As I did a couple weeks ago, I spent hours watching his old interviews and press conferences and things like that. He is not the same man. He was crazy then. He's still crazy, but he's slower and doesn't know what the hell is going on. That was a 2-minute rant about nothing. That was a not answer to the question even. And it wasn't like he was skirting the question. Like, he just didn't understand it. How long are the detainees going to be in Florida? And then he goes on a 2-minute rant about how he lives in Florida and he loves Florida and everyone's his friend and Ron's his friend and he loves the Oval Office and he puts little trinkets in there. Like, 2 minutes. And this is just, again, a needle in a haystack of much more crazy stuff. If it was anybody else, people would be screaming from the rooftops, being like, this person is in decline. This person is a mental case. This person needs to have their, health records released. But no, Jake Tapper, again, last week, he and Chuck Todd went on this whole thing about how, we've all been sold a bill of goods because Joe Biden didn't really care about his children. This was about his, he continued to stay in the Senate after his wife and child died because he was ambitious. What? Still talking about this, the Joe Biden thing, still trying to make this happen.
And they're doing it, Michelle, after Biden's out of office. So it's okay because it doesn't impact their access to the Oval Office or power or anything else. In fact, it probably helps them because Trump loves to hear it. Right. They're going to be shit talking Trump the minute he's out of office.
Are they? I don't know. I mean, that's, first of all, if he ever leaves.
Well, if he ever leaves. But the point is, it's this access to power. And it's this doubling down where Jake Tapper is just spending 24/7 obsessed with Joe Biden to sell a book. Okay, but Jake Tapper, in addition to selling a book, you also have a show and you're also a purported journalist.
Yeah.
So why aren't you covering this on your show?
Right. And that's the thing is this is the immediate.
Now. This is news.
Right. This is happening now. This is happening now every single day. I mean, and this is just one thing. Then he went on this tirade about groceries again and how this beautiful word that no one had ever heard of. The man is not okay. He is mental. He is crazy. He is a malignant narcissist. I don't know why people don't have mental health professionals on television every single day talking about the mental and physical state of Donald Trump's health. I don't understand it. And again, these people are just afraid or just don't only think that Democrats are held to certain standards that people like Donald Trump are not. I don't know. But listen, I'm so sick of this. And Jake Tapper is somewhere in this world today doing God knows what. And I'm sorry, but I think he is a reprehensible human being who to continue down this path when we see in the background Joe Biden getting down on one knee, sending his condolences to families and people who have been killed, murdered.
Joe Biden, by the way, Michelle, who has cancer. Joe Biden,
who has cancer, yes.
Who is, I hate to say this, does not have long left. And yet they continue to trash Joe Biden, who is no longer relevant, talking about some cover up by the Democratic Party, which fine, you've made your point. Where is the accountability for
where's the story about the cover up about Donald Trump's health? That's my thing. You want to talk about a cover up of his state during COVID, cover up of his tax returns, cover up of his never releasing one single health record, his cover up with Ronnie Jackson.
Remember, it was
sure. Yeah. Ronnie Jackson saying that he was the healthiest man who's ever lived. Or how about the fact that, he's having all kinds, what are the big purple marks on his hand? Why aren't there 10,000, headlines about that? No one seems to have any problem. But, Hillary Clinton once fainted in 100-degree heat and, she has, is terminally, has brain cancer or something. I mean, it's just craziness. And it is malpractice every single day that no one is talking about it. But yet we just allow this man and his big, stupid Gulf of America stupid hat And we just allow it. Like, we just allow it. And I just feel like we're getting dumber every single day, if
So
not closer to death by their policies.
totally agree with you. I
Anyways.
unfortunately have a hard stop.
No, yeah.
That's because I got to go talk to about the Diddy trial and the verdict there, which is a whole
Yeah,
separate
we
story.
didn't talk about that, and
We'll
I'm
talk about that,
actually okay
but
with that.
Michelle, are we doing another round of our show on Sunday night?
I think so. I don't know about Sunday, but TBD.
Okay.
But yes,
Right, TBD. So
soon.
for those of you who joined Michelle and me on Sunday to talk about stuff, not really politics, but life and whatever, we are so grateful to you. There were many of you who did. We're going to do another show. We're going to tweet it out and put it up on socials.
Mhm.
And we are very grateful to you for joining us. We hope you do it again. Michelle, you have the stakes on Thursday?
No, we're not doing a stakes this
Not
week.
good
We are
steak.
taking the week off to
Okay.
enjoy the holiday. So
Wonderful. But we are going to see everybody here on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern for coffee and conversation, because it's a holiday weekend. And after you party on the 4th and watch the fireworks and eat barbecue or whatever you're planning on doing, your burgers and fries and stuff, come get over it with us on Saturday morning.
Well, and just really quick on that note, like, I know a lot of people are feeling some kind of way on the 4th this year because of all the horrible things that our country is doing. And to that, I have to say that the right and MAGA, they do not own patriotism. They do not own our flag. They do not own this country. This country belongs to all of us. It is up to us to hold on to our love of this country and what we feel that this country represents and should stand for. And the second that we relinquish that kind of control and narrative and thinking and ideology over to them, it's over. So please, please, even if you have to fake it for a few minutes, take stock in the things that, we hold dear in this 249-year
We will get our country back. He's
democracy.
only been
Yeah.
around a really tiny fraction of those 249 years.
Yeah.
We will get our country back
Yeah.
by hook or by crook, because this
Yeah.
man, as my mother said, cannot just show up and take away the promise of America that we all love. Everybody, happy 4th. I mean, I really mean that. Happy 4th. Happy birthday to the United States. I really mean that too, because it is our country, not theirs. As Michelle said, have a great time, whatever you're doing. If you're doing nothing, that's cool too. I plan to stare at the ceiling on the 4th and hopefully do nothing. And we will see you guys all on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And in the meantime, have a great rest of the week. Bye, everybody.
Yes, ma'am.